another episode of the Miss Myra Show. So today what we're going to talk about is Chapter 6, and that is Spanish Louisiana in your textbook. And that starts on page 124. So this is what it looks like. Okay, so what I want to start off is just by going back a little bit to talk about French Louisiana and some of the issues that they had with French Louisiana. Now, remember, when King Louis started the whole charter in Louisiana, his main goal was to make money, and that was the main goal. He didn't come here because he wanted to, you know, establish some new world or set up new trade routes. He didn't want to do that. His main, well, I guess the trade routes he kind of did, but whatever. But his main thing was to make money. And it seemed, you know, he had problems with LaSalle, Bienville was acting up, all this other kind of stuff. You had issues with the proprietors, John Law had gone bankrupt. All these people were having some serious problems. So when King Louis saw an out, he took it, basically. France also was having issues with England. They were always having problems with one another. France and England were bitter, bitter enemies. And eventually, they lost control of Louisiana. Now, when France... So, the French and Indian War happened. And we know that this, you know, we learned about this before when we studied American history. But now we're going to talk about how it affected Louisiana history. Now, when the French and Indian War happened, America at that time, they were on the side of the British because we were not an independent nation yet. There was no America at this time. When French Louisiana was in play, when Bienville and Iberville and all those people were around Louisiana, Louisiana was not, there was no America. There were the original 13 colonies. That's all they were. And when the French and Indian War happened, the 13 colonies fought alongside of the British. And the French and Indian War is totally very misleading as far as the title goes, and because it is a war between France and Great Britain. The Native Americans fought on side of the French. So it was the French and the Native Americans, or the French and Indians, versus Great Britain. Now, America, the 13 original colonies, George Washington was one of them, they fought for the British. Louisiana was in control of the French. So this was a big conflict. Now, we all know what happened as the end result of the French and Indian War, and that was that France lost. So when they signed the Treaty of Paris, which basically ended the French and Indian War, they gave all of their land, or a lot of their land, over to Great Britain. Now, France was not about to do that with Louisiana. Louisiana, even though they weren't making any money, it still had the mouth of the Mississippi. It still contained that. And France still had control over some portions up in Canada. They weren't giving that to the British. And they did not want to give them that access to the Mississippi River by giving them the area around it, and that was to be Louisiana. So France came up with a plan, and they called up their friends over in Spain, and they signed the secret treaty called the Treaty of Fontainebleau. And in this, France agreed to give Louisiana to Spain for them to basically hold on to it. Now, this is the catch. France gave it to Spain with the whole intention of eventually getting it back. Like, that was the whole thing. They gave it to Spain and said, hey, hold on to it for us because we don't want Great Britain to have it. So if you can hold on to it for us, you know, when things get better and we have issues, no more issues with Great Britain, we're going to take it back, okay? And Spain was like, oh, it sounds like a good plan. Well, now the Spanish are in control of Louisiana. So no longer is the French flag flying, well, it is, you know, Paul, we'll talk about that in a second, but it is now under Spanish control. Louisiana is now a Spanish place. And if you ever go and you walk through the French Quarter, you will see Spanish influences and you'll see French influences, which is really cool, you know, especially with the architecture and street names and things like that. And I think that's just pretty cool. Like the Cabildo is actually a Spanish influence, and you know, the St. Louis Cathedral is a French influence. So, and they're right next to each other, which I think is just phenomenal. Very interesting to me, but I am obviously a big nerd. Okay, so Spanish government begins. So Spain sends over there this guy. His name was Antonio de Ula. That's his name, okay? So Antonio Ula comes there, and he's pretty, like, I don't know, disgusted about the way Louisiana is being run. There is, you know, lots of, you know, Bienville type activities going on. A lot of nepotism. People don't know what they're doing. Crime. You remember, like, Louisiana was just, especially in the New Orleans area, things were not going very well. Excuse me. Okay, so Eula came over there, and he, this is insane that they sent this guy. Bienville, you know, he's a party boy, but, you know, he doesn't do everything right. But people did like him. He was very likable. You know, he played an instrument. He had lots of parties. He had lots of friends. The Spanish send over Eula, who is a scientist. He's an introvert. He's quiet. He doesn't like loud parties. He doesn't like lots of people. So you can imagine how well he was received by the French people that were living in Louisiana. Here comes this guy, and he's all like, oh, hello, hello. And they're used to Bienville being like, party! That kind of guy. They're used to that. And here comes this real quiet, reserved person. They don't know how to act. That's a lot of times when students, when you leave my classroom and you go, you know, next year on to the next history teacher, and you're like, wow, this person's kind of quiet, and I don't know. Some of you are like, finally, I don't have to listen to Miss Meyer and her crazy mouth. But some of you are like, oh, I don't like that. I don't know that. That's how it was in France. So Eula, right off the bat, was not liked by the French because he was not friendly. He didn't, you know, say hi, how you doing? He was very, very quiet. And kind of like, I live in Dallas now, and one of the hardest things for me to get used to living here, moving from Louisiana, from New Orleans, from Chalmette, was that when I moved to Dallas and I would see somebody, I'd always say, hey girl! And everybody was like, oh, what did you say to me? Don't ever refer to me as girl. And I'm like, that's just how I say hello. I mean, that's how it is in Louisiana. And it took them a while, but now they're used to it. So I'll say, hey, girl. And they say, hey. But that's just because I'm from Louisiana, right? That's how we say hi. I say, how's your mama and them? And now they know that I mean their whole family. But before, when we first moved here, they were kind of like, that Louisiana lady's crazy. Okay. All right, so moving on. So Eula comes, he's a scientist, he was an introvert, he did not like parties, did not like social events, he didn't like any of that. And that was what Louisiana was always about. So Eula was not liked at all. When Louisiana found out that they were now under Spanish control, they were livid. They did not like it at all. They were like, no, we are French. We don't care what you say, Spain. We don't care who you send here. We are French. And there was a lot of conflict between the people that Spain was sending and the people that were here and that were French. Eula could do absolutely nothing. Okay, he could do absolutely nothing right. Everything that he did was considered by the new Spanish government as being offensive. Everything was offensive. Now, one of the things that he did, his greatest error, and this is for real, was that he did not have a formal public ceremony to celebrate the transfer from Louisiana from French to Spanish. Now, the French were very, very big on big ceremonies and displays of, like, you know, I don't know, fancy stuff. I mean, they're coming from King Louis, okay? So this guy wore more makeup than I did, King Louis, okay? He liked to party. He was, like, all about fancy, schmancy stuff. Well, Eula comes over here. He don't like all that. He's like, I ain't doing all of that. I'm not doing anything like that. And so the French people, they thought, well, then since he's not going to do that, we're not going to listen to him. He's not going to honor us, and we're not going to listen to him. We're not going to do it at all. And that obviously was a big deal to them. Eula did not understand how big of a deal it was, so he kind of overlooked that. He said, look, I got all these other problems. I have pirates. I got ladies of ill repute everywhere. Drunkards, thievery, all this stuff going on. I'm fighting with Great Britain. We got the Native Americans attacking this. The original French people hate me. This is Eula talking. The last thing that I need to worry about is having a big party. And that's how he thought. And in all actuality, that makes total sense. But to the French people that were living there, it was a sign of disrespect. And in order to get them to work with him and work with Spain, Eula needed to show them respect. He needed that. But Eula was not thinking like that. He was thinking like a scientist. If you ever watch Big Bang Theory, Sheldon is very, very smart, but he doesn't really have social knowledge. Like when someone is upset, Sheldon says, may I offer you a hot beverage? But that's only because it's what his mom told him to do. He doesn't know what to do. He's thinking like a scientist. And that was Eula's problem as well. And it really got the people to really dislike him. They really didn't like him. They didn't like him at first, and now they didn't like him even more. Okay? So, even, so for months, the French flag continued to fly in Louisiana, in New Orleans, and Eula did nothing about it. He said, I'm not worried about it. I got a lot of other stuff to worry about. I'm not worried about this flag. But in all actuality, it was a big mistake because Eula did not worry about this whole flag and worry about this ceremony. It made him look weak. It made him look as though he didn't care what was going on. And that showed the people, the French revolutionists, the people that were going against Eula, that, hey, this guy is a wimp. We could take him on. We don't care what he said. We're in control. And that created even more problems. So something as simple as a small ceremony, well, nothing was small, but, you know, a basic ceremony of switching over regimes and changing a flag really hurt Eula and his whole governorial thing over in, oh, my legs stop, Louisiana. Okay, now, there's a lot of problems again. Wait, I want to read this one. Okay, Eula, like I said, he had lots of issues with so many things. And he wanted to utilize resources that were in place that were beneficial to him. And one of those resources was keeping a lot of the French government, who was in control when France ran Louisiana, in place when Spain ruled Louisiana. Now, in all actuality, it seems like it would be a really good idea that would really free up some of Eula's time to focus on other things that he had to worry about. But he did not think that it would possibly be that these French people that he left in control would work to turn the people against him even further. And that's exactly what was going on. Now, one of the people that were left in control was Charles Philippe Aubry. Now, in the time after, we had Bienville, after Bienville had left, and the time between the space of time between Bienville and Eula, we had Aubry. He was kind of like acting governor. Now, when Eula replaced him as governor, he ordered him to now, instead of being governor, to command the French soldiers. Now, Aubry, said, sure, I'll do it, whatever. But by doing this, he gave Aubry a sense of a leadership of the soldiers. And it's crazy because Aubry did not like Eula. So now Aubry, he's not in control of the government anymore, but he's in control of the army. And do you think the army is going to follow Eula, or are they going to listen to Aubry? The army was already full of French people. And you think they're going to sit there and listen to anything Eula says? They're going to listen to what Aubry says. So this, again, was a really dumb move by Eula. And it really hurt him. Big time. Big time. There was a bunch of members of the Superior Council that did not even believe that this was true. They thought, that true in the sense that Louisiana was now in control of Spain. They believed that, oh, it's just a lie. kind of like my husband believes that we never walked on the moon because he's crazy. No, but these people said it can't be true. France must have never really gave control over to Spain. It must be just like fake, and they're just saying this because if Spain was really in control of Louisiana, we wouldn't have Eula doing the stuff that he does. He said he couldn't possibly believe it. But it was true, but Eula just did not have the mentality to run it all because he was thinking like a scientist. He wasn't looking at the entire picture. Now, there's a lot of unrest in the colony, lots of problems that are going on. Definitely, Eula is dealing with a lot of them. But we will talk about them in class this week, and I will see you next week on the Miss Meyer Show. Bye.
So we'll talk to Daddy. Vivian, will you talk about Daddy?
Yeah, I'll tell them. Vivian, what's the code word?
Cricket.
Cricket?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Say bye.
Bye.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around and scare everybody, and I'm going to video their reaction because I really love doing this. So, shh, be quiet. What are you doing? Get out of my face. What are you doing? I'm scaring people. Go away. Okay, go. Shh, here's my first victim. Rah!
You gotta get the video of Vivian whenever she falls.
Ah! I'm going to scare Mr. Meyer. Alright, here we go. Rah! Rah! I'm sorry. Do you still love me? Lou, do you love me still?
She's traumatized.
You traumatized? I'm sorry. I love you.